I'm Pam Fox at pamfox.org, and in today's video I'm going to be talking about some different home remedies that you can try and use to treat symptoms of LPR. And I know that I'm usually the person that's preaching against symptom management, but instead getting to the root of the problem. But while you're getting to the root of the problem, sometimes it's good to have these different home techniques and remedies to use that give you relief today. And so there's nothing wrong with that. And what I want to share today is nothing really new. These are some of the things that you see other people using and trying that do work. Some of them are very old home remedies. I always just assume that some of these things are things everyone knows, and then when I talk to different customers and clients, I find out that that's not the case. So I think it's worth revisiting. But I am not a doctor. If you want to find out more about my credentials, you can do so at the About Me tab at my website, pamfox.org. So as always, you always want to use different recommendations and therapies that people recommend logically. And, you know, I don't know you, I don't know your circumstances, I don't know your background. So you always need to work with your own healthcare professional when you're trying something new. So with that said, let's start out. I want to start out sharing my very favorite treatment for LPR, and I want to share what it is and why it works. And obviously these things are going to work for some people and not for everybody. Everybody is going to be different. And there's usually an explanation as to why something works or doesn't work. Or there's usually an explanation why things don't work. So maybe you tried it once and you didn't really give it a chance. Maybe you did it wrong. Maybe your condition is just really advanced and you need multiple forms of support in order to heal. So there's usually an explanation as to why things that are working for a lot of people aren't working for you. But this remedy is an old remedy. So when I was a kid, whenever my brother and I would get sick, or if my parents got sick, they would have us gargle with salt water, okay? So that is a very old remedy. And then when I got older, got into college, I would get sinus infections all the time. And my mom introduced me to the neti pot, which it wasn't even the neti pot. We'd never even heard of neti pots, but she would take clean, warm water with a pinch of salt and baking soda, and she taught me how to, clean my sinus cavities that way. And so what I want to talk about is why this works. Just kind of the behind the scenes as to why this works. So there's a couple of things that are happening when we gargle or rinse with a saline solution of baking soda and water. One thing that's happening is there's a cleansing action going on, okay? So when we have LPR, the acid is making its way up the esophagus and into the throat, and burning and irritating and injuring the tissues, right? And so logically speaking, if we could cleanse the throat, that would be one way to rid the throat of that damaging acid. Another thing that's happening is as the acid rises up, it can carry the digestive enzyme pepsin with it. And pepsin is a digestive enzyme that digests protein. And it likes to linger and kind of stick around. And so if that pepsin lingers around in your throat, and again, its job is to digest protein, so then it can begin to digest and irritate the flesh of your very own throat. And how pepsin is activated is when it is in contact with acid. Okay, so usually people who suffer with LPR are mostly symptomatic in the night or in the morning, and that's because when you're lying down, that acid has a better chance to flow and then to pool in the throat. That acid combines with the pepsin and can create, a sore throat, a hoarse voice, or a number of these different symptoms of LPR, which is basically just damage and injury to the esophagus and to the throat. And so if we can cleanse that acid and that pepsin, then we're on the right track. But pepsin, again, it likes to linger and it likes to stick around. So that's where we get into neutralizing. And when it comes to baking soda, it is alkaline, right? And so when you mix Baking soda, if you think back to like your science or chemistry classes, what happens when you mix baking soda with acid? You have the alkalinity and the acid, they combine together and the acid is neutralized, and then you're left with water and salt. Okay, so again, if we're having something that's coming up and burning our flesh, injuring our tissues, we want to cleanse that away and we want to neutralize if we can. Okay, and so that's why a saline gargle or a rinse is going to be beneficial for treating the symptoms of LPR. So remember, if you're wanting to get to the root, oftentimes people who have LPR also have the acid is making its way through the lower esophageal sphincter and the upper. So it's making its way through two valves that aren't doing their job. They're not keeping that acid in the stomach. So if you really want to get to the root, you need to figure out how, if you have a hiatal hernia, you've got to get that hernia down so that those valves can start working again, so that those valves can heal and those valves can start doing their job productively. And there can be a lot to that. But that's how you get to the root of the problem. But we're not talking about that today. We're talking about managing these symptoms. So a couple more things. So we talked about cleansing and we talked about neutralizing. Going back to cleansing, another thing that you can try is simply gargling with even plain water. Plain water, but you need to do this multiple times a day. And so what this does is dilute and cleanse. Even water, it's not highly alkaline like it would be if you do the pinch of baking soda. And I'm going to get to how to create this this treatment in a moment. I'll tell you how I do it or how I did it. But even clean, purified water. So an example would be you get up in the night, you use the bathroom, take a drink of water, gargle, gargle, spit, gargle, gargle, spit, go to bed, get up in the morning, same thing. After breakfast, same thing. When you use the bathroom, every time you're at work. So basically, anytime you're near a sink and you're near water, if you get a chance to gargle and spit 2 or 3 times, that's going to dilute and cleanse the tissues of your throat. Okay, and even if you can't spit out that water, you can just swallow it. The acid is coming from your stomach, so if you're going to gargle and swallow it back down, that's not going to hurt you. Now, if you're gargling a saline with water and baking soda, you could swallow that too. I don't know about you, but I've tried that before and I think it's pretty gross, swallowing salt water. But if you're just doing a little bit, once a day, most likely that's not going to hurt you. It might make you a little sick, feel a little nauseous or whatever. But as far as the saline goes, if you can gargle and spit, in my opinion, that would be best. So then how do we make this saline? Well, it's really, really easy, but you do need to be mindful that you use clean, purified water. You don't want to be reintroducing more things that can irritate the tissues. So filtered water, bottled water, boiled water, and then just a cup of warm water. You don't want it to be scalding hot and burn you. A cup of water, and then just a pinch of baking soda. And you want to make sure it's good, clean, new baking soda. You don't want to grab the box of Arm & Hammer that's in your refrigerator absorbing all of those toxins. You do not want to use that. So you want to make sure you're cleansing with something that is clean, all right? So just a pinch of baking soda into a cup of warm water, and you can use that to gargle. Now, as far as the sinuses go, if you want to get a neti pot and do the same treatment multiple times a day, cleaning out your sinuses, for many people the acid comes all the way up to the sinuses and causes a variety of issues that way. So you can clean your sinuses with a saline. And one of the things that I used to do so that I could carry it with me, I remember there was kind of a lot of attention to store-bought saline nose sprays to prevent and treat sinus infections. And so I would carry one of those around, and it occurred to me when it got low and old, I just dumped it out, but I kept the spray bottle and I made my own saline. Again, clean, filtered, boiled water with a pinch of clean baking soda into that little spray bottle, and you keep that in your purse when you're traveling. And then again, first thing in the morning, you can spray it, a couple of sprays into your sinus cavities, and it will cleanse and neutralize and dilute what's going on up there as well, including mucus and phlegm. you guys have to remember that the body creates mucus and phlegm as a response mechanism to protect you and to promote healing. So when we're sick, that phlegm is created to protect the tissues, and it's provided to, encapsulate the germs, the virus, the bugs, whatever, and then we blow our nose or we sneeze and we get that stuff out, right? So it's the same thing with LPR. If you're creating a lot of phlegm, your body's trying to protect those tissues with that phlegm, and it's also trying to buffer and encapsulate that acid so that it's not touching the tissues. And then the phlegm does what? It irritates us. Maybe we clear our throat, maybe we cough, because the body's trying to get that, whatever that is, that foreign object, that acid, that pepsin, is trying to rid the body of that, right? Because it knows it's harming us. So if you're constantly clearing the throat, you might try gargling with water multiple times a day to cleanse that. You might try a saline gargle or a sinus flush. I think that's it. I just wanted to add a couple more things. One other thing that you can try is juicing. Now, anytime you, and I'm talking about green juices, so celery, cabbage, cucumbers, greens, spinach, and kale, juicing those things, when we swallow that green juice, the benefit of that is multiple fold. So not only do we have cleansing and diluting and neutralizing, right, because the green juice is very alkaline, but we also have, it promotes healing because the green juice is so full of healing properties, right? So that's going to begin to promote the healing of the injured esophagus when we swallow that green juice. So, but just remember that a green juice isn't a one and done thing. It's something you need to do. Try it every day for a week and see how your throat feels. If you're experiencing sore throat all the time, or constantly having to clear your throat, or cough all the time, or you're hoarse all the time, or you have difficulty swallowing, any of these symptoms of LPR, try making your own homemade green juice every single morning. Try that for a week and see how you feel. That's going to really help begin to promote the healing of those damaged tissues. And again, this isn't a fix for your LPR. These are all going to help contribute to healing and help. Anytime you can get that acid off of the tissues, then the healing can take place, right? The healing can then begin to take place because you don't have something beating it up all the time, okay? And that's where, sleeping with your head propped up comes in handy. You can buy a wedge, a very specific pillow that they sell for people with GERD and LPR. Or you can just prop your bed up. You can prop your bed up 4 to 6 inches so that your chest is raised up, right? And that's not always going to do the trick. The acid will still rise. It's just going to have to work a little bit harder to get up there, right? Because you're going to be using gravity towards your advantage. So you can try that. And then, DGL licorice is one thing that I never used back in the day, but I see people recommending it all of the time on the support groups. And what it does is it creates a mucus barrier on your throat. So it creates kind of its own protective barrier so that the tissues are protected from the acid. So the acid's still coming up. It is still, it's still present, but now there's a barrier there that's going to protect you from that. And then of course, eating a low-fat plant-based diet is one thing that I highly recommend. And of course, this is not just for your LPR, but for your GERD, for your stomach conditions, and for any other health issues that you have. This is going to help promote healing, but especially for LPR and GERD. Again, when we think of that pepsin lingering around in the tissues, it's just waiting to interact with any type of acid, and then it's activated, right? And then it begins to digest you and injure your esophagus. So if you're getting up first thing in the morning and drinking coffee, tea, soda, or eating anything acidic, which includes meat, dairy, and eggs, and highly processed foods, or even orange juice, which is really, really good for us, but if you've got a damaged throat, it's acidic, and you've got pepsin lingering around in there, you drink a big glass of orange juice, then you're really going to have a sore throat. So if you're eating a whole foods plant-based diet that's low in fat, high in fiber, high in just nutrition, then every time that food is exposed to the esophagus, it's going to promote healing. It's going to promote healing, and it's going to alkalize, and it's going to cleanse just from the act of going down the esophagus and being good, healthy, nutritious food, as opposed to putting food in there that's going to irritate it further. Okay? So I think that's it for today. Remember to, so that's going to be another topic. So that's it for today. I hope you guys got some value from it. If you have any further questions, be sure to post them in the comments section below here on the Facebook Live, or I will copy this over to my YouTube channel. You can post comments and questions there as well. Thanks for watching.